a soft spot just because we know 1xN to be such an incredible Ezreal player, but they also have not been able to play things like the Varus. They're not willing to play things like the Poppy, which I know Poppy right now is just banned globally, or at least predominantly here in the LPL, just becomes too much of a menace in the early game, and the flex potential you have between jungle support and top lane, incredibly dangerous. LNG going for Nocturne. It will be WeiWei's first champion, or first time on the champ this year, and I just don't like leaving Vi up here, Grapes. I do not like this as an option.
I feel like Nocturne always is one of those picks that gets banned away in that first rotation. It looks like this time Weibo opted for the Orianna instead of the Nocturne. Only one of those two ends up getting through, but looks like that Vi not going to get picked up by Weibo, as Xiaohu's first game on the team will be on the Jarvan the 4th, and they might just lock in both champions for those two new additions, with Shen already secured. With the Camille off the board, could create a situation where Weibo could pick that champion up later on in the series. But on the other side, LNG going to have to come up with some way to respond to this heavy engaged duo that Weibo have selected.
If you want, I mean, Ryze and the Orianna plus Cassio are banned. You could just look for an Akali angle. Seems like LNG are going to take themselves up the Lucian Melio. I did not want to see mage play coming in from 1xN, even if I trust this guy to be able to play most of anything, mechanically speaking. Give them a strong lane pair and hope that we can see a good 2v2, because so far, this split, I think 1xN, and whether it's missing or YCX, has just not been that guy in the laning phase. He's made a lot of mistakes early on in the games that jeopardize his team's position and ability to win.
Sponsor Weibo going to be that Ziggs. You could imagine that goes towards Elk to try and just outrange the Lucian Melio 2v2 as we enter the second phase of our first draft of the evening. Still, of course, have those solo laners to round out the teams. It looks like Weibo going to start by taking away the Rumble.
Ziggs gives you really great range. The Zonias plus... I would say you have Shen, but because there's a Nocturne, Nocturne tries to cancel out your ability to use the Stand United, so I think that's an interesting piece of tech here. Maybe for Weibo, let's just get rid of all of the strong lanes, right? We got rid of the Cassio and the Orianna. We have Rumble taken away. Likely that we'll maybe see something maybe to get rid of like Yorick and open up a Jace angle, or just allow for Sheer to play some of his most played, which would be leaning towards things like the Gnar.
A lot of options still available up on the top side, even though the the Vayne and the Rumble both taken off the board already. Xiaohu in the mid lane always has his specific champions that he likes to play. Maybe setting up for a control mage in the mid lane with that Akali takeaway.
Just feels to me like we're probably going towards Syndra. It's going to be Syndra, or it could be something like a Sylas. I think Sylas here for LNG or for Xiaohu could be okay. I don't think there's a lot of ultimates that you could try to take, and blind. I mean, you have to blind somebody. Please, we're not telling me we're doing blind Olaf here.
Hey, you know what? Yesterday, Top Esports B1'd Olaf, and they won the game against BLG. So if they can do it, anybody can blind pick at Olaf. Maybe Zika has a chance to do that. There are definitely things that can answer into it, though. The Cassante just generally going to be able to duel pretty nicely against that champion, especially once he hits level 6. We'll see if Sheer wants to lock that one in for himself.
Ooh. Galio's not much better. I feel like LNG are really kind of running themselves into the meat grinder with this one. Do I, as a Lucian, as a Nocturne, as a Galio, do I really want to deal with an Olaf? No, not really. And you have to pick a winning matchup into this. But there's also a Shen, right? And the potential for Jarvan to walk top lane, always a possibility. I do think Zehen is interesting. Zehen into this team comp right now, Weibo don't have a ton of consistent damage, so unless they come out with like a control mage in mid, I think that there's a very good possibility that we see this Zehen do some damage. I did see double Melio on my screen there, so I'm going to assume something with the draft kind of went boom.
That sucks. We just got all the way through there.
Darn.
I assume it's the Zehen into the Olaf. That is a matchup that we have seen picked. I think we just saw it yesterday in our first series of the day yesterday.
Yeah.
Into an Olaf. I forget what team? It was LGD, right? That was playing, I think.
Oh, it was just okay. So it was just a draft. It's like the display of the draft on the broadcast side. The game is fine. We're not gonna have to remake. Everybody, we're not gonna have a tomorrow situation. Fingers crossed.
I'm a little sad that the lock didn't get picked up for Xiaohu. I feel like that would have been a fun thing to see for such a legend in the space to be playing the newest champion in the game, but he's going to be playing another champion that was released over the last couple of years in the Aurora. Of course, going to have decent laning power against the Galio, also have the ability to match him a little bit when it comes to roaming across the side lanes, and I think overall Weibo Gaming have a pretty solid composition, all things considered. On the other side of things, over onto Weibo, hey, right? Flipping over to the enemy team and getting an opportunity to try to show up his former organization here in Beijing. One of these teams is going to have a tough road ahead of them here in Group Nirvana. It's LNG and Weibo to wrap up our first round robin.
I try not to acknowledge chat, but I do agree with Kirby. Kirby definitely helped with that pause for you, brother. So.
Junglers starting on the opposite sides of the map. So, it'll be Xiaohu looking to maybe make an impact here on Elk and Moham early. Summoner spells being traded down here. Heal for barrier. As it is going to be 1x10 and missing to get that early push.
Gotta do it in this lane. Melio is going to be able to out-sustain any poke damage from the Ziggs, and Ziggs level 1, it can be dangerous, but I think in a perfect world, Lucian and Melio should be able to win that. Jungler's also pathing to opposite sides. I like the vision that we ended up getting here by Weibo, but we see some pings. It means that they will be able to spot where WeiWei is going to be going, and all that LNG did was mostly protect their topside jungle in case there was an invade. Ultimately, I think that this pathing ends up helping Weibo a lot more. I don't think that Nocturne is going to be ganking top lane, not in this position with the wave eventually bouncing back. And so the most important part is how are we going to activate this bottom lane to give us ways to play the game.
The faster you can get Lucian Melio activated, the better. Already a good start for them. As the Ziggs Shen lane, really just trying to neutralize the 2v2, not trying to do too much in terms of any early advantages, early kills. Just trying to have Elk be able to farm up safely, maybe allow for Moham to roam across the rest of the map once he hits a couple more levels to his Xiaohu currently there, as Xiaohu is really looking for an aggressive play onto Nya. Have a summoner spell burned off of the Galio. That's a good start here for the Weibo mid laner.
Ooh, and Jarvan's not going to even go for the bottom side scuttle. They're going to look for a wraparound gank here. This wave's horrible.
Yeah, 1x10 mission have no idea this is happening. Moham lands the taunt flash onto the Melio. He still has his flash available, but he might just try to save it because he knows he's going to go down. Oh, Xiaohu predicts it. Goes in with a flag and dragon, will claim first blood on his new team.
EQ, flash out, get the kill, first blood confirmed. Weibo just open up this game fiery, winning a mid lane matchup solo and putting this Lucian Melio behind. It just gets better and better, baby. We are doing really good stuff. He's going to open up with the bottom side, get scuttle, opens into top afterwards, and I'm looking at this mini-map now. WeiWei doesn't have any camps to play for, and all of his waves are pushed in or enemies are recalling. There's nothing for Nocturne to do but continue full clearing.
I've seen enough. Best roster move ever. Weibo going to Worlds, guys. 1-0 and a 1,000 gold lead. Hey, it's a good start here, right, for Xiaohu, who, again, we felt like was a player who had certain bright spots on BDG, especially in the first two splits. This should be generally the split that he excels at here in the summer, and he's looking to add to his impact here onto Sheer. It's a massive wave that he's going to lose out on, and maybe even die for the cause as well. He flashes away from the EQ combo. Moham sending himself up here as well. LNG also deploying mixing to the top side to make sure that their top laner stays safe. Xiaohu roaming up here as well. We're getting weird up here on the top side. EQ once again connecting, this time onto the Milio, and it's going to be Sheer going down first in this fight. Flash after Zika. WeiWei not able to land the fear as he flashes back underneath this tier 1 turret. Now with the Justice Punch. Not going to find anything as it's a double kill going over to Xiaohu. And Weibo Gaming have opened up a massive lead in the first 5 minutes of game 1.
You're right, Grapes. You might actually just be right. Okay, Mohammed Xiaohu, we're seeing him in Allen, Texas, baby. That's it. I'm calling it right here. And he gets to invade even more. Zika pops the ultimate.
Oh,
okay,
no.
guys. It's time to recall. It's time to recall. We're out of here. Ziggs is farming up. Aurora's going to get back into her lane. This is miserable. You called out the huge wave that Weibo are able to grab and prevent Sheer from attacking. I thought that the roam from missing was really, really smart. And you know, it took a while for LNG to be able to move all of them. They don't have any damage. Yeah, exactly. That's why I wanted to see Lucian Milio start winning early, is because Galio's not going to have a ton of damage. It's a Nocturne who, yes, he can throw some punches, but him and the Zehen are not going to be throwing haymakers. So, very big win for Weibo, and it's not like we're getting anything else on the other side of the map. This is a horrible early start for LNG.
I mean, that was a bizarre sequence to allow for Missing to also roam up alongside Nya and WeiWei to try to defend that top lane. Obviously, Weibo sent a lot of resources up there, and LNG wanted to try to bail Sheer out a bit, but that was not the way that things should have worked out, especially because 1xN is probably your strongest early game champion, and he was the only one that wasn't at that skirmish.
That situation, I think, made things so much worse for LNG if they would have just left Sheer die by himself or even just get the wave, because Nya had to drop a wave in mid and he was already behind Xiaohu. WeiWei, they saw him doing his grugs, so they knew he had to be bot lane and he had to full clear up. He had to drop camps to make this happen. Level 6 here for Xiaohu. WeiWei has his ultimate. Can they do anything? They'd have to contest after the dragon is gone.
Is this even worth it to try to start a fight into? Culling is available for 1xN. He's going to issue it, but it gets canceled by the satchel charge. In comes the Paranoia. Hero's entrance over top, going to find a knockup onto 2, and the taunt will find Xiaohu, but he buffers it with the EQ. Dragon secured by LNG, so they do get the objective. The health bars are blinking and soon to be gray. Xiaohu gets the first kill, and 1xN has to use a relentless pursuit to escape. 1xN in a lot of danger still, as the Aurora picks up a double kill, and Weibo Gaming lose the dragon, but they end up winning the fight 2-0.
Yeah, a 4-0 Aurora at 7.5 minutes is not where you want to be as LNG. Let's look at this recall when he gets back to base. Goes from double amplifying tome, alternator, and maybe much more. We go into this replay. Where is the damage, Grapes? We were asking for it. We were looking for any of it here. None of it materializes, and some of it goes into the dragon, sure, but that is a lucky smite. 1xN dashing forward, but cancels auto attacks into Weibo. And the resets that this Aurora are abusing. All of the damage. The best part about Aurora is her passive. The amount of damage you can get if you get multiple applications of it, it is max HP damage, and you just can't avoid it there. Gets completed Sorkpen boots plus the alternator. This might just be a 2v2-on-1.
Zika doesn't want to pop the ulti just yet. He still has his ghost, but knows that Sheer is here. The grubs are started up by Xiaohu. Should be able to take all of them as Weibo continues to snowball their lead. Of course, they would have liked to have that first dragon. They're going to be okay with the situation at hand because they're up 2,500 gold. They have all 3 grubs, and they have a composition that we said scales pretty well into the late.
They just gave the Ziggs team 3 grubs. Grapes, if they get to hit a turret or they even get the Herald in 6 minutes, this game goes from a 2,000 gold lead, and if nothing changes, to a 5,000 gold lead immediately. You're going to get a crap ton of gold immediately, and that is what this season is all about. It's bounties and turret plates. So we'll have to see how Weibo continue to maneuver around the map, but they're getting winning lane matchups, and we said we're coming up on 10 minutes. Lucian doesn't have a majority of a CS lead, and it's 200 gold, which has been completely mitigated by the fact that Elk has 3 assists.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't care about that. He has a lost chapter, and he is going to be scaling much better than 1xN is, especially with Weibo already having this early lead. A reminder of the stakes between these two teams, 0 and 2 across the board. The loser falling to 0 and 3. That is never a good sign in a 4-team group where only the top 2 teams make it out. Obviously, Ninjas in Pajamas already sitting at a 3 and 0 record. IG right behind them at 2 and 1. You want to at least try to get up to 1 and 2 before you play up against everybody again in the last 2 weeks of the season.
It's all about game differential. You can have the same series score, but if your game differential is bad, then that basically breaks your season in its total entirety. LNG currently have 0 game wins this split. At least Weibo, they have 1, but that's not much. And usually I'm the guy that's like, you know, 1 is more than 0, but this time I'm not too excited about it.
Fighting up here on the top side, Sheer going to be able to finish off the kill alongside WeiWei. So Zika goes a little bit too far forward. Both global ultimates were utilized by LNG off of that play. That means that Xiaohu and Xiaohu will have a timer on the bottom side. That'll force 1xN and Missing to play a little bit more defensive.
Yeah, took Nia out of lane again, so knows that this lane matchup's not good. Why did we walk back up?
Coming out, Mega Inferno Bomb not doing a whole lot. The Cozy Campfire keeping 1xN very healthy at this point as he issues the culling and forces Moham down to half HP. Weirding comes out in the flag and Drag secures the kill. Xiaohu now unstoppable, but the collapse from LNG is big. Elk already goes down, a 2-man taunt comes through from Yana. Teleported again, coming in, this time from Sheer to try to finish off a couple more kills on Weibo's side. Xiaohu gets his teleport cancelled by the punch of justice by the Galio. Nya should be able to finish off this last kill with a couple of more spells. A 700 gold shutdown goes in, and LNG are all the way back into this first game.
Every other time we've seen someone try to teleport in the middle of a fight, usually it goes off. That time, not what happens. That is an expensive fight. I thought this was a win here for Weibo. I thought, why are we walking back up to the turret? You already used 2 ultimates in that last play top, but Weibo don't have the damage themselves because all of their gold is concentrated into Xiaohu. 1xN, you just can't dodge into the Aurora Wall. That right there is what does the damage and pulls him over the finish line. Grapes, I gotta say, I was a little more hesitant because Xiaohu gets his quest proc in the middle of this fight, which means he got upgraded tier 3 boots, but it came a little too late. And the residual damage that LNG have with this Nocturne end up actually kind of getting them across the line. So shutdown going over to Nia. That was a 1400 gold. He's now ate up 1,000 of that immediately.
It was a play almost so obvious that LNG knew that it was happening even before it started, right? You saw that, of course, they used the Paranoia and the Hero's Entrance to try to take down Zika, and then WeiWei and Ya both immediately ran down towards the bottom lane to try to save their Lucian Milio, and it ended up working pretty well for them. Weibo still going to try to hit this Dragon. They still generally feel comfortable with where the game is at. And this time around, no potential for a steal. Will go over to Xiaohu as he will equalize that count of Drake's Infernal Rift. Going to be the one here in this game.
It's only been a couple of minutes, 4 to be exact, but Weibo haven't been able to use those grubs. And I did say it would be later on in the game. We have some first item spikes coming through for almost everybody that is not Sheer. And the game looks fine for right now. 1,500 gold typically is not a lot, especially at the 14-minute mark. But this Ziggs hasn't been able to take a turret. And I think LNG, with those 2 plays, both in top lane and bottom lane, have really started to claw back some kind of playable game state from here on out. We have ultimates coming through for both of our supports, especially for Moham, but that interaction we addressed in draft between the Nocturne ult stopping you from using the Stand United could be something that LNG try to use to generate an advantage on a side lane.
On the other side, the big advantage right now for Weibo is on the top side of the map, where Zika is up 40 CS and almost an entire level on the Olaf pick. Has that experimental hex plate picked up. He's going to be very strong, not only in the 1v1, but also when we get towards these team fights. And the question for LNG is going to be, how do you stop this Olaf from trying to just wreck through your entire squad? Normal things like the Galio stun, the knockups, the taunts, those aren't going to be effective once Zika presses the R key.
Yeah, having the entire first item over his opponent is huge. He has such insane dueling potential. And maybe a macro piece to think about is Zehen or Sheer will have the teleport shield. Zika will not. And Zika's TP will be on a much longer cooldown in comparison to Sheer. So whenever Zika shows up to a fight, Weibo need to make it count. And maybe conversely for LNG, anytime that Zika is not there, they need to make sure that they're either getting something or preventing Zika from running over this game. Because 1,000 gold lead is nice, and we talked about how Olaf, compositionally speaking, will run over this LNG composition if he gets the right conditions.
It seems like those conditions are being met pretty handily right now, at least in terms of the lead that he's been able to generate individually. It's a 50 CS gap, as the rest of Weibo are on the top side, taking down Shelly, as it just has spawned. LNG trying to get their way into the pit, make this a bit of a 50-50 as WeiWei pops the paranoia and is looking to go for the engage. As you mentioned, Zika here first on the play, as Sheer now has to use the teleport to try to make it a 5v5. Missing nearly immediately assassinated. Xiaohu gets the kill, but he will get traded 1-for-1. WeiWei in the midst of everybody, he gets hit by the flag and drag, and it will be a second kill going Elk's side. 2-for-1 in favor of Weibo, but it looks like LNG didn't come out too bad at the end of that one.
Yeah, it's the Herald that goes over to Weibo. They got those 2 kills, and that was the teleport from Sheer. So almost as if we maybe caster summoned it, or we maybe caster enchanted the summoner spell. Sheer now doesn't have teleport to be able to match, and that's going to be a mismatch between our 2 top laners. Imagine how awkward of a position this is, by the way. Great play from Elk to use the Satchel Bomb to get over this wall, but you're 1 extended missing. You're like, well, if we walk forward, there's an Aurora, there's a Jarvan, and all of these guys. If we walk backwards back into mid lane, there's this Olaf that's just staring us down. So I don't think Zika got a ton done in this fight. He just shows up, helps get the assist, uses his ghost, but his presence alone is what helps Weibo get into this really good spot.
And now with that Herald, they will summon it into the mid lane. Should be able to take down this mid tier 1 turret with the help of the satchel charge of Elk. Now top side, ultimates traded. Grim Deliverance for the Ragnarok. Zika still being very powerful in this initial 1v1 setting. So Weibo still looking very good in this game. Even though LNG have found a couple of kills back, it's still 3k into Weibo's hands.
If you're WeiWei, do you ever just try to look for something top lane? I know that both of them just use their ultimates, but you have the Nocturne ult, you're on this side of the map. You have to be worried about Shen, but he doesn't have ultimate, and nobody seems to be coming to this side of the map. Seems like that's not going to be the play here for LNG. We have Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, and I'm just looking at the side lanes right now. Taking this mid wave, Ziggs is going to delete this, so your ability to contest on the wave is always a little better for Weibo. I look at Fog of War right now, a lot of the vision is dominated by Weibo, and you're getting push on this bottom lane matchup thanks to the Aurora versus Galio, so it's tough as LNG to ever get priority in these side lanes before you move to the objective. I think that's why we see Sheer just recall and walk over, especially with the teleport disadvantage we just saw.
Yeah, I mean, now Zika will be able to use that summoner spell if he wants to join the fight. Speaking of, fight could be breaking out around this third dragon. The culling was just completely eaten by Xiaohu on the Jarvan. Didn't really take a boatload of damage himself. Zika is able to take this entire turret before arriving to the fight, but it does mean that LNG will regain positioning around the river.
And it doesn't even matter because he can still teleport. They haven't used the ultimate. Like,
Cataclysm in.
LNG!
Finds 2 members in the Mega Inferno Bomb, dishing out damage as well. Zika arriving to the fight as now it is fully a 5v5, and the dragon now fully belongs to Weibo Gaming. WeiWei still has that paranoia, waiting to use it to try to maybe go in. Nope, but they're going to back away, knowing that this dragon is all but belonging to Weibo Gaming.
He uses the ultimate, it prevents vision, but the TP from the Olaf is already done. Zika and Xiaohu will now get this bottom lane turret. Weibo got 0 kills during that trade, but they get 2 tier 1 turrets on top and bottom lane, and they get the objective. That is outright a massive win for Weibo Gaming, and LNG just look stuck. They look unable to do anything.
Such a weird situation. It feels like, you know, after that one team fight for LNG, the over-aggressive dive from Weibo, maybe they could have found some way back into this one, but all the efforts seemingly fruitless at this point by a team that really needs a win not only in the series, but even just a game. And it doesn't look like it is likely to be this one at this point, all because Weibo are at 4,500 gold at the 20-minute mark.
And you know who's going to be the savior of this game if LNG do win? You know who's going to be the most important part, at least in my mind? It's going to be this Zehen. We have seen Cheer actually win unwinnable games on Zehen before, but those are late game fantasies. Those are 4 and 5 item top lane Zehen games. Weibo might just take all of their turrets by the time that happens, and you can be an okay Zehen, but you're already down 2,000 gold versus the Olaf, and that's not even including when you press tab and look at the rest of the team. It's a 5,000 gold lead. Some of it will get cut into with this bot lane turret taken by Nya, but there's another turret being taken in top lane, and the rest of the game is starting to get away from them. I'm seeing 2 items being completed for some of the members of Weibo.
Yeah, remember when you were saying the grubs weren't proven very useful? I feel like that was a pretty good sequence for having 3 grubs if you were Weibo Gaming.
Yeah.
You're able to get about half of that turret in the mid lane tier 2, fully the top lane tier 2 for Xiaohu. And Weibo just continue to balloon their lead, and it's not like this is a composition that falls off in the late game, right? You still have this late game Olaf, the Aurora, going to get stronger and stronger, and so is Elk, both when it comes to the damage that he'll provide with the Mega Inferno bombs, but also the wave clear, in terms of just making sure that LNG are never able to get an advantageous state with the minion waves.
But what if? What if Weibo just decide to throw? You know, they do a little magic. Some of the Weibros come out and play. Some happy gaming. What if it happens, Graves?
This is the welcome to Weibo moment for Xiaohu and Moham, right? They're having it too good right now. They're gonna have to throw at some point, and that's gonna be the first time they truly are a member of the Weibros. Right now, we can't call them that yet.
If they're not Weibros, then what are they? Just Wei dudes? It doesn't feel fair.
They're members of Weibo
Gaming.
No, they're members of Weibo Gaming. But they become the Weibros once you do a Weibro thing. And so far they haven't gotten...
They're contracted employees at Weibo Gaming.
Yes, yes.
They're not quite a Weibro yet. Okay.
They have not been initiated. They have not joined the family. That might come here as Moham is taken pretty low. Not trying to hunt him down, but it's going to be that heal issued by the Shen support. They'll go back to base pretty happily. And now we're heading our attention back towards the bottom lane. Cheer and Zika duking things out a little bit. Zika knows that WeiWei is around with that paranoia, so uses the ghost to try and escape. Weibo not really in a position where they can start up this Baron just yet, so it is a bit of a waiting game for them before this dragon spawns in a minute and 20.
Usually with mages, you can't do Baron. Aurora is the exception to the rule. This champion is a freak of nature. The passive is what I always talk about, and it's for a reason. It makes so that you can just burst down really high health targets if you get multiple applications. So we got to see a little bit of what I was talking about with this Zehen there. The fact that, you were mentioning that WeiWei crossed through mid. They saw him on the wave, so he can play to either side lane. Weibo respecting that. But now we're 45 seconds before our dragon. A lot of things are equal when it comes to the summoner spells, and LNG are now facing an even bigger goal lead than they had in the last fight around this objective.
That one didn't really go well for them. Well, it wasn't even really a fight. LNG backed away before they even could have had a chance to die to Weibo's 5v5 composition. Elk throwing out these bouncing bombs. Had to be a bit of a nuisance here. He once again cancels the culling of 1xN with that satchel charge. That's the second time that it's happened around a big neutral objective fight.
And now you have a half-health Lucian. I would say with Melio, you can try to sustain, give him some healing in between, but there's way too much poke. And if they find the angle, Weibo will just snap this Lucian's head off with the Aurora and the Jarvan. Positioning going into this river is completely controlled by Weibo, and LNG are just losing out on gold while Zika is hitting the dragon.
Sheer able to get an inner angle onto the fight, but L1XN isn't there just yet. He's clearing this wave in the mid lane, has healed back up to full, but now the artillery barrage can commence. You see Xiaohu throwing out some spells, Elk as well, and so WeiWei knows it's time to engage, finds the tether on to the Aurora, but she'll flash away. LNG now gaining control of the Dragon Pit though, as Zika and Xiaohu still waiting for the perfect moment to go in. Flag and Drag lands on Tenya, the Ragnarok has been unlocked, and Zika is trying to one-shot Sheer, but he pops the passive at just the right time. Cataclysm comes out. The Dragon was secured by Weibo, but they're dropping members left and right. It's a shutdown picked up for 1XN. Xiaohu will go down to the Nocturne. A double kill for WeiWei, and LNG are all the way back in this game again.
Li Ning have woken up here, ladies and gentlemen. We got to see them pressure Xiaohu, the team fighting not as crisp. And this is Elk, who teleports in, gets some okay damage down. You need to find big burst plays. Using Xiaohu's ultimate like that means that all of the damage from Weibo is just not there, and Sheer is really damn tanky now.
Elk has a standing united on him.
Okay,
Moham trying to collapse out that passive. Sheer will fall. Moham gets the final kill credit, but that's not going to matter here for LNG because they can continue to go forward. WeiWei with the paranoia, but he's not able to take down Elk. He rocket belts away, and now it's Zika with the Ragnarok unlocked, looking to go in on a 1v3. Mega Inferno Bomb dashed away from 1XN. He will survive until Xiaohu takes him down. Missing, running away from the Might of the Jarvan, waiting to use the Blast Cone as Xiaohu gets over at the perfect time to pick himself up a double kill. LNG able to win one fight, but Weibo strike right back.
This is what you come to watch Nirvana games for. This is why we get excited for 0-2 LNG and Weibo at the bottom of the table. We go all the way back to the Dragon fight here, and with no ability for Xiaohu to be in here, WeiWei gets to take the short path back into the jungle. You need to wait for the damage of someone like Elk, but we're fighting. We're trying to hit the Zahen. We're trying to hit the Galio. That's no damage into people like 1XN or WeiWei. I was concerned about some of the poke that was happening in mid lane, but the Melio healed them all back up. Xiaohu flashes back to get the smite, and that's the best part of this play for Weibo. LNG looks so good. And then this.
Until here. Yeah.
This was, up until this point, this was fine, because they actually had started doing the Baron. Sheer just felt too possessed. He felt, maybe I do need to go in, but the passive is just not that. You just used it around the Dragon. This Flash, man, you had the tether. Grapes.
The fight worked
what is
so
happening?
Well for LNG when they were grouped up as 5, and then when Sheer went out and died on his own, things, of course, went back towards Weibo. They pick up the Baron buff off of that team fight win, and now still having that buff for the next 2 minutes. That is 4 to 5 minion waves that will get crashed underneath LNG's base. Those grubs once again coming into fruition here as Xiaohu almost able to take down this entire mid lane tier 2 turret. The rest of the wave comes through. Satchel charge issued, and now only inhibitor towers remain in LNG's base.
Look at the gold leads, man, and they get complete control of all of this vision. They get to bounce between all of these waves. Olaf is too scary of a threat for WeiWei to send it on. Aurora might be, because she's disconnected from the team.
Xiaohu goes between worlds, not getting hit by the fear, and so WeiWei unable to capitalize on that potential opportunity. He will back away with that paranoia now on cooldown for the next few seconds, potentially for the remainder of this Baron power play. Weibo sending 4 members into the bottom lane to try to take down the first inhibitor tower of the game. LNG doing their best to try and defend, but they're eating a ton of poke from both Xiaohu and Elk, who are throwing out spells left, right, and center, and forcing 1XN and missing to head back to base.
With this strat from LNG, because of how short range you end up being, the Lucian being your only ranged marksman, you can't clear these waves. So you don't have a control mage like Orianna or Ryze who can try to even clear these minions. And they're Baron empowered with a cannon here. Turret's gonna fall.
Pressure goes down, and that means the fight can begin. Grim Deliverance hits 3 members as Sheer's very strong in the front line. Has the hero's entrance on top of the passive proc, but as he is respawning, the rest of LNG might be dying. Zika going down, but WeiWei will go down in a trade. It's a 2-for-2 overall, with Xiaohu and Elk still at full HP. Sheeran missing, have to run away as a reset is coming through from Moham. No longer has that Stand United, so has no opportunity to get back into the fight. Weibo get the tier 3, but they do not get the inhibitor as LNG hold the line.
But guess what, Grapes? They kill WeiWei, and it's 20 seconds before the Infernal Soul spawns. Weibo, they get caught up with some of the good crowd control that lands. Xiaohu is trying to help through mid or sit in one of these fogs. I like the use of the Shen ultimate to try to protect Zika here, but it's just too late. You don't have the damage. Now by the time he goes in, he's basically dead. And WeiWei's just respawning. You'll have time for Paranoia. There'll be a TP. This is the last play of the game before LNG are just too far out of it.
Teleport coming in from both solo laners of Weibo, so it will be a full-on 5v5. Still a wave crashing into the bottom lane eventually, but Sheer's not going to care about it. He just wants the extra shield off of his TP. Dragon very slowly getting started up by Weibo. They do not want this to be a 50-50. They want to look for the fight instead, and they have Xiaohu on a massive flank with a rank 3 between worlds. 1xN dashes forward, finds a little bit of damage onto Zika as the Paranoia has been opened up. They're looking for the backline, flash away from Elk immediately, but Sheer's already down, and WeiWei getting chased down by the Olaf and Moham as well. It is Elk to pick up the 4th kill of the fight for Weibo as they'll claim the Infernal Soul and will look to end game 1.
That was beautiful. This mid jungle from Weibo looking like they haven't missed a beat from 24. Xiaohu walks in. He uses the flag and drag to get 3 members of LNG, and then Xiaohu over top between worlds. All of the damage from the Aurora, and Nya's gonna fall right outside his Nexus as Weibo take game number 1 in only a Weibo fashion.
Couple of sloppy errors, but that is all that is expected when it comes to Weibo Gaming. 19-12, that's a clean enough victory for them to go up to 1-0 in this matchup against LNG.
Incredible stuff. I mean, the opener to this game was fantastic for Weibo Gaming. The mid game looked a lot like some of the other mid games we have gotten from Weibo, so gonna need to see them kind of clean it up, but it is kind of the same concerns I had about this team when we saw the roster get brought up for Split 3. It was, who is going to be the leader, and who are we really going to be able to play through? And for the last year, it has been play through 1xN. It has been let this guy carry in team fights, but even he is starting to falter in some of these moments. The baggage of a poor 2026 looming over them, and potentially elimination from being able to make playoffs.
Yeah, even if Weibo win this series, still will be difficult not only to claim top 2 in Group Nirvana, but also to make it into the playoffs entirely. That is not to discount what happened here in this game, but to talk about just that potential path for a little bit. They're going to have to pass either one of NIP or IG, and then after that win a best-of-5 series against a team that's been in Group Ascend this entire season, whether that's an EDG, an LGD, a ThunderTalk, a JDG, any of those teams that are currently in the bottom 4 of the standings. That was something they were unable to do in split number 2 after being in Group Nirvana, so still a lot of work to be done for Weibo. But maybe with this new roster adjustment coming in, Xiaohu specifically looked very comfortable here, back on Weibo, and he was able to put up a really strong early game that turned into a Game 1 win.
I want to get excited about this Weibo, but I still see some of the big holes in their game plan. I didn't see the reasons why we would want to bring in players like Xiaohu or Mako. That's not the right play. What's brother doing over there? He's not supposed to be there.
Moham, Mako, basically same. They both start with the letter M. That's what happened. Right? Missing? Also
Kyle? they try to fix This is every Anyone's Legends dream, by the way. They
like,
want Elk.
That was the shortest I've ever seen that screen be put up. They were like, get that out of there. Let's go to the highlights immediately.
They're like, who's the last Shen player? Kyle. Pull it up on the system right now. That is a dream, okay? Every AL fan this year has been praying for AL Elk. They're like, oh god, yes, it's come to me. Still a lot of the problems for Weibo though, Grapes. I still see not the cleanest team fights, and if they're playing against a better team, I feel like this game would still not be as comfortably in their grasp as it was.
Yeah, I mean, a better team would have taken that early game lead and turned it into a win in about 24 minutes. That is not exactly what Weibo had to offer. They had fights that were close that probably shouldn't have been, just due to some of the setups that they ended up going for. And at the end of the day, it just came down to some of those good old-fashioned hands, it feels like. Xiaohu has always been a beast when it comes to the summer split, continuing that trend here on this Jarvan. And you have to give some credit over to Xiaohu as well on the Aurora pick. Of course, it wasn't always the flashiest, but I think a lot of the times he was at least providing good enough distraction to make sure that Weibo were able to win the fight in other areas.
This makes me worried, though, Grapes, because these are not, like, the premier mids in the on the patch right now. I think you look at what all of the priority mids look like, and a lot of them were banned. It was Cassio, Ryze, and Orianna all banned, but where is the Syndra? Akali was also banned, so you can make an argument that, hey, a lot of the champions that we've typically seen some of the other games would be there, but I'm just looking down the list at some of the other champions we typically have seen. I mean, Syndra was left up. You still had, obviously, the Locke, like you were mentioning, an Ahri game as well could still be here. Even Victor. These are not the same mids that we have been seeing throughout the patch or throughout the meta, so that kind of tells me that Weibo are maybe playing with tools that are not necessarily comfortable with the best champions on, or at least the agreed upon best champions, and they're trying to go for specific combinations or specific lane matchups to try to give their team or their players the best setup early.
Right, it's not the sharpest tool for Xiaohu, but it's the one that he's been playing with for the last 2 years and change on the Aurora. Might be a little bit dulled around the edges, but he's able to still chop down on it hard because he knows how exactly to grip that thing and play it to a T, like he did against LNG here in this opening game. We're waiting our Pog vote here for this first matchup. I'd say Xiaohu in his first game. I think it'd be a nice, like, welcome over to Weibo moment once again, but also just his early game presence on the Jarvan was unmatched.
Why not Moham? This guy is two of the best supports in the LPL. You know, you've got Kael and Mako all in one player. All right, the narrative was too strong. Thank you, Grapes. Xiaohu gets his first MVP joining the team.
Yeah, and I think pretty well deserved. 89% kill participation. I mean, the early game plays that this guy was making, just very wise and something that he was able to do on EDG, and even some of their wins that they had in split number 2 in Group Nirvana. Of course, hadn't found many wins before transferring over to Weibo in that trade for Jiejie. But regardless, it is Weibo that ends up with that 1-0 series lead over LNG, who now dropped to 0-5 in terms of game score here in Split 3 of the LPL. They're going to have to come up with something quick to keep their season in a desirable position. Otherwise, it will be Weibo marching up to a 1-2 record and a 2-0 series sweep. Before we head to a short break, we want to give a big shout out to all of our coffee members, because if you would like to support LPL English, you should consider becoming a coffee member, as it is the best way to support the LPL English project, with the vast majority of your contributions going directly to the show. A lot of these initial payments go into things like upgrading the broadcast, like creating the graphics package that you see here on the stream, but a huge bulk of it also pays us on-air talent and content creators. So you can subscribe to our coffee. It is linked in the chat to unlock perks like early access to content and the ability to ask interview questions for our unique on-site interviews.
Get on that coffee, guys, please. We need to pay for more Weibo contracts. We need to get more supports in the team.
Will there be a 6th after this game? I don't think so, but we will find out once we return from this short break.